I think the arts have an amazing opportunity right now with social media and organic reach with a lot of these apps, that if they're not taking advantage of that to publicize themselves and to get them out to, I mean, everyone on their phones, literally every single human being, then they're not doing their jobs right now in 2024.
When you hear the word arts, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
I mean, I when I hear the term the arts, the first thing that I go to, I may go on a bit of a rant here, and I'm trying not to, but a couple years ago, Meryl Streep, the actress, was being interviewed. Um, I don't necessarily remember what the topic of the question was, but she had commented on UFC, right? Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is like boxing, but it's mixed martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And she was commenting on how that is not the arts. And I just remember feeling a certain, like, a type of way about that, because I think it's a broad term that can encapsulate a lot of different things. People think about the word art and think of a painting. Well, and that is obviously art, but there's a lot more to, like, art forms, right? I mean, sculpting, cooking is an art, uh, right? There's a little bit of a science there with a recipe, but then you also have your own love that you put into it, where you have your own things, your own spices, your own things that you do to it. So, I mean, cooking is an art, theater is an art, and any kind of performance to me is an art, whether that be expressed through athleticism or on a sheet of paper or through a musical instrument. In the Dead Poet Society, the movie with Robin Williams, there's a line in there, and I might be paraphrasing, but he talks about how engineering, science, math, those are all noble pursuits, but art is what people live for. I mean, that's all that I think about almost all the time, are just different forms of art, if you will.
Did you have to think creatively at times when you were?
In the military?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, 100%. There are, uh, and you have to forgive me because in my adult life, the military has been most of my profession. I've, like, waited tables and things like that when I was younger. But okay, so we have these things called SOPs, standard operating procedures, right? When you're going to perform a task, whether that be a valve lineup or turn on a machine or whatever it be, there's a procedure for it. Step one, step two, step three. There's not much creativity there. That step is, or those steps are there for your safety and for everybody else's safety, right? But there are other times where you need problem solving, and you have to think outside of the box for that. There are other situations that I can think of. So I'm a submariner, okay, and on a submarine we have sonar, right? Uh, Sonar, for a lot of people, they don't know that. Yes, it is a word, but it's also an acronym. It stands for sound, navigation, and ranging. Submarines do not have windows, so we can't see outside. So we just have to listen. All we can do is hear. So we have sonar. So these guys sitting in a room with headphones on, right? And if you hear something in the water, we're all looking at these screens, and there's a trace. And so you can put your mouse over this trace, and then you get to listen to that thing, right? Well, we have to know what it is. We have to figure out what it is. And there are a myriad of ways that you can do that. You can hear it, and you might be able to tell what it is, but you might not have the full understanding of it unless you look at the frequency of that noise. So there's, like, the volume of the noise, there's where it's coming from, there's the frequency, there are a plethora of ways that you can look at what a sound is, try to find out what it is, where it's coming from, and break it down. And there are there are very good sonar techs out there that are so good that they can listen to a ship and know exactly how many propellers that it has and which country that ship comes from. And it's this fascinating thing, but there aren't just one way to do it. So they get to think creatively all the time on how to figure out what this is.
That's fascinating. Part of being a part of an orchestra is that working together. It's the ultimate collaboration, right?
Mhm.
And listening and knowing, anticipating, all of
Yeah.
that. Sounds like there's a little bit of this orchestra. I don't know. I got that feel as you were talking about,
I
that.
mean, everybody plays their part. I mean, so in our control room, you have people that are driving the ship. You have people that are, um, moving water around the ship to help with our weight. If this is a submarine, different parts of the water have different salt levels, right? So we have to. So like our weight could weigh, we could weigh one thing one time, and then if we're too heavy, then we'll drop, and if not, then we'll come up. So we're moving water back and forth. You have, like, again, people listening to sonar. You have people telling people where to go. You have people driving. So we just all operate as this orchestra as part of a team. And then even, you know, much like in an orchestra, if you have the violin section, you have multiple violinists, right? You don't just have one. So in our sections, in our watch sections, there are multiple of them. And they have to work as smaller teams within a bigger team. So I mean, in the military, absolutely. And I mean, that's just on a submarine. But I know surface ships do very similar things. I know the Marines and the Army and the Air Force in their own workplaces have their own, orchestras that they have to be a part of as well. I should go to more concerts, but I don't. I think the last concert that I've been to was 2020. Bonnie and I went to go see Shinedown at the Warner Theater because I like that band. I really like Shinedown. But we really haven't been to one since.
So the ballet and all of that, you were saying that you don't really see advertisements or know what their programming is and what their.
No, the ballet specifically, I don't really, and just a lot of theater, I don't see a lot of advertisements for. I don't know if it's because it just doesn't come across my algorithm or anything. But no, I don't.
Do you like to experience things a certain way that would say, hey, you know what, let's just go give this a shot and see what this is all about?
I think it would have to be something that somebody drove me to, because I mean, at this point, I mean, like I said, I'm almost 40. I mean, I think I know what I like in terms of like performances and experiences. It definitely has to be worth my time right now because it's limited. And then again, if it's a newer experience, if I'm gonna be paying a pretty penny for it, whatever that is, it better be like there better be like a lot of hype behind it as well.
Yeah, so word of mouth.
There's a, so there's a number of factors here. When what were you just talking about? And it made me think the contemporary aspect of it. If I could throw an analogy out to you,
Yeah.
when growing up in the Catholic Church, we have one person maybe playing an instrument during the service. When I was in high school, a couple of my friends were Methodists, and I went to their service, and their music was far and away more something that I was interested in than what it was at the Catholic Church. I proceeded to get into drums as I got older, right? I became a drummer, and I played for different churches. None of them were Catholic. And I remember my parents at the time were complaining that you are losing these kids because they don't want to come to your services because they're outdated essentially, and you're not reaching the younger generation. Which in a church, I mean, you want to reach everybody, right? It's not just there's not the 18 to 40 like age group or anything like that. But just I think the arts have an amazing opportunity right now with social media and organic reach with a lot of these apps, that if they're not taking advantage of that to publicize themselves and to get them out to, I mean, everyone on their phones, literally every single human being, then they're not doing their jobs right now in 2024.
I think they all use social media, but
Mm-hmm.
how they use it.
Yeah.
And
And to quote Gary Vee, how many times are you posting a day? Are
right.
you just posting one time a week? Because if I was an artist painting or sculpting, I would be posting 3 or 4 times a day. I mean, no joke, of me doing different things. And that could be in a simple picture that you post with music behind it. That could be you creating the actual art. That could be you telling the story behind it. Storytelling is all that we care about as human beings. I mean, just in terms of getting entertainment value out of whatever it is that you're going to consume. What is the story behind it? Why do I care? Why do I care about this painting? So right here I have it. So this is a challenge coin. Okay, this is a military challenge coin. This is from the USS Jimmy Carter. Okay, and the military commands will have coins, and it's kind of this pastime that you have a coin, and if there is a gift shop or whatever, you can go and you can purchase the coin. Okay, and I was told a long time ago that every coin has a story behind it. If it's not of the story of the person who gave it to you, it's the story of the command or the place you were at. It's even gone into like police units have like challenge coins now. I was interested in, well, where did this like pastime come from? And then the story blew me away, and it's now to the point where whenever I come home, if I'm meeting with a person, I'll try to give them a challenge coin if I can. Back in World War I, air squadrons wear a medallion around their neck to like identify where they were from. Some Americans were captured by the Germans and they escaped into France. Okay, and they were captured by the French, but the French couldn't tell who they were because they were wearing like prisoner attire, right? They were about to be killed, put on a firing squad, and one of the firing squad members noticed that one of them had their medallion around their neck and noticed where it was from. And he said, these guys are Americans, and it saved their lives. Okay. And ever since that moment, they would go out to the bar with their fellow squadron members and bring their medallions with them, and they would place it on the bar. And if I brought my medallion out and I put it on the bar to you as a challenge, you had to produce your medallion as well. And if you didn't, then you owed me a beer. But if you did have it on you, then I owed you a beer. So it's a game, right? But it's, hey, do you have this on you? So they're called challenge coins because I'm challenging you. Do you actually have this? I mean, and what a fun story that is. And it really just gives meaning to this otherwise just like a piece of metal, that's shaped in a circle with like a cool picture on it. But that's the history of that. So it's like if people can just get their story out and present it in a way that captures other people, I mean, that's all there is to it, and it's going to survive like arts, but you just have to fight through a lot of the bureaucracy that you have to go through. I mean, I remember in the movie Mr. Holland's Opus, which is a great movie, they wanted to cut his music program from the school because the budget was low or whatever it was, and he was furious about it, as any music teacher would be. I mean, math, math and science are great and they're needed and we need to have them. But if you take away the arts, if you take away your creativity and storytelling and things of that nature, then what are we even living for? Why are we building bridges? Why are we fixing potholes in the roads? I mean, it's so that we can live and like feel these things, from the arts.
That was awesome, Ryan. I loved that coin challenge story, but you are 1,000% right. Tell the story on social media, tell the story behind the performance. So that notion of what is it and what's the story and why always to me made any experience or art form much more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell the story. That's another one of my mantras. If the story you're telling isn't getting you results, it's time to tell a new story.
Yeah. Or make one for yourself.
Exactly.
You can do all you want. You can have the greatest technical ability in the world. You could be the fastest painter, you could be the best painter, but if there's no story behind what you're doing, people are only going to care for so long. So you got to have a good, compelling story, and it's the artist's job to find ways to tell that story to connect with their audience.
Thanks. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. No, thanks. This is great. I love that you're doing this.